Hello and welcome to part 2, the Vinyl Chamber analysis of the UK No1s of 1976. Before we get into the episode, I just want to apologise for the fact that the quality of the audio in places is not to the standard which you, the listener, are entitled to expect, and certainly not the standard which I try to set for projects like this. But I've identified the problem, fixed it, and hopefully it won't mar your enjoyment of the episode too much, and it certainly won't feature in future episodes. The other thing I wanted to just say before we get into it is that in this episode Matt and I discuss Fernando, and what we neglected to say, and this is exactly the kind of trivia that Matt and I normally delight in, is that before it was a hit in English for ABBA in 1976, it had been a hit for Frida as a solo artist in Swedish in 1975. So I'm hoping that Matt doesn't know that, and he'll learn it for the first time when he watches the playback of this episode. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into part 2. Enjoy.
Can you hear the drums, Fernando? I remember long ago another starry night like this. In the firelight, Fernando, you were humming to yourself and softly strumming your guitar. I could hear the distant drums and sounds of bugle calls were coming from afar. They were close now, Fernando. Every hour, every minute seemed to last eternally. I was so afraid, Fernando. We were young and full of life, and none of us prepared to die. And I'm not ashamed to say the roar of guns and cannons almost made me cry.
Down note perfect harmonies, actually. Absolute note. Nice chords as well. This is a nice chord change. Yeah. Nice minor chord there. Yeah.
Yeah, just hold up the single again. Let's have a look.
Yeah, and as we'll see, for this is on the old Epic Yellow, as we'll see for label nerds, of which I proudly am a signed up member of the club. Epic were just about to go from yellow to orange. So this is the last kind of Epic orange label. I love this actual yellow and black Epic label, which was first really launched in the late '60s with the Zombies Time of the Season. And the early numbers, all the early ABBA numbers were on this yellow Epic. Isley Brothers, another band on Epic.
Yes. Well, I think this is just perfection. It's not only about the songwriting, but it's also that the musicianship and the production. It was almost as if they just didn't have to try, and I'm sure a lot more went into it than we're aware, but it just sounds so effortless and natural.
Well, it is perfect, as you say. I mean, I know this is your favourite ABBA song. It wouldn't have been traditionally one of my favourite ABBA songs, but we talked about the evocation of a time and place, and the intro achieves four things, I think, through the intelligent use of music. First of all, it's kind of got a round the campfire feel. It's looking back into the past. the flutes and the strings create that sense of past, then at the same time they create a Latin feel, and then the drums are military in nature. So you basically have around the campfire feel, the music just by brilliant songcraft by Bjorn Benny and Stig Anderson creates those four things: military, historical, storytelling, Latin. Before the words even been... No, it's about the Mexican Revolution of 1910, and it's about two old comrades, freedom fighters from said Mexican Revolution. And it just came to Bjorn while working in his summer house in Sweden in the summer of '75, and it's actually, to all intents and purposes, it's a Frida song. Frida, I think, sometimes gets a kind of a bit of a bad rap in ABBA. She's Agneta tends to get the headline. She was kind of a blonde, but Frida was a magnificent singer with a very wide mezzo-soprano range, and this was kind of originally her song. But to say Agneta complements her voice perfectly, when she comes in with the harmony, it's an absolute thing of beauty because it's perfectly pitched. As you know, Steph, you and I are kind of suckers for good harmonies.
When the harmonies come in on that second verse, you notice the way they pull back the arrangement.
Yeah.
So they started off on a certain level with the instrumentation, and as soon as the harmonies come in, saying, right, this is now the next layer, and we're going to pull it all back. I think that is genius.
Yeah, and it's mood. It's all about mood, and it tugs at the heartstrings, as do the chords. You know, it's an A major. Then we get that very, you know, the obvious minor is an F sharp minor from A, but it's used so effectively for almost sadness. You know, evoking a kind of sad time, and then it goes into a B minor, which is so sad, but then resolves itself on the E. I don't want to get too kind of too immersed in the kind of the. But these are basic chords: A, F sharp minor, B minor, and E, but done so brilliantly into perfection, and with that wonderful melody and the great harmony, it is just. And as you said about the production, it's perfect, and it really is a band on top of its game. As you say, we'll come to Dancing Queen later, but I mean, this was a band that was, you know, and as we've said before, Steph, you know, I can really appreciate that, and I don't use the word genius lightly, but I think it is genius what the songcraft that ABBA were exhibiting at this time. I think we agreed that as songcrafters they were unparalleled.
Let's play the next one then.
Go from the sublime to the ridiculous.
Now, our little boy came up to his mama in the kitchen this evening while she was fixing supper. And he handed her a piece of paper he'd been writing on. And after wiping her hands on her apron, she read it. And this is what it said. For mowing the lawn, $5. For making my own bed this week, $1. Going to the store, 50 cents. And playing with little brother while you went shopping, 25 cents. Taking out the trash, $1. And getting a good report card, $5. And for raking the yard, $2. Total owed, $14.75. Well, as Mum looked at him standing there expectantly, and I could see the memories flashing through her mind. And so she picked up the pen, and turning the paper over, this is what she wrote. For the 9 months I carried you, growing inside me, no charge. For the nights I've sat up with you, doctored you, and prayed for you, no charge. For the time and the tears that you caused through the years, there's no charge. And when you add it all up, the full cost of my love is no charge.
It's almost like a kind of cliched country and western song with the kind of a slide guitar in the background, the kind of plodding cowboy beat. Let's take ourselves back to the blazing hot summer of June of 1976, June, and we've got to remind ourselves that the charts were in a funny place. You know, kind of glam rock was dying. We were pre-punk rock. There was space in the mainstream pop charts for these kind of songs. Now, in 1979, I first bought my first version of this, the British hit singles, which is my kind of Guinness Book of Hit Singles, which is my kind of Bible, if you like. Here's the song, by the way, on the Power Exchange label, J.J. Barry. The label is called Power Exchange. I think it's an offshoot of President Records, which the Equals had a #1 hit in 1968 with Baby Come Back. The only time they troubled the charts, as far as I'm aware. But when I got the Guinness Book of Hit Singles in 1970... Oh, hang on, I'm going to turn this off, hang on.
Still hear it there in the background.
When I got in 1979, the only song I couldn't remember from 1976, because I was 13 at the time, and I remembered all the songs, and I had to go up to my sister, what is that? What is that No Charge one? And she reminded me. Now, it's just basically, I'm surprised it made it to #1 over here, which I think it's almost like too absurd, really, for British taste, but there we go. It's a slightly mawkish, saccharine song, really. A young boy hands his mum a list of chores he's done, and what he thinks they're worth with a kind of monetary value, and his mum responds with all the things she's done for him, but saying there's no charge, which is kind of the premise for the song. Now, there's a couple of quirks, Steph. I know you'll have a couple of quirks. The actual Vicky Brown is doing the female vocal. Yeah, and now she's the first wife of singer Joe Brown. She's the lead vocal. Yeah, exactly. Sang it very, very well.
Yeah, she died of breast cancer quite young.
She did. 51 actually in the early 90s. It was written actually by Harlan Howard, who's one of the most prolific writers of country and western songs, and it was actually recorded first by Melba Montgomery. But J.J. Barry picked it up and had this huge hit with it, and of course it's ripe for parody. It's the most ripe for parody #1 I think in the history of #1s, and good old Billy Connolly, who never missed a chance to satirise songs, especially country and western songs, DIVORCE, etc. And he came up with a parody called No Chance. Now, just before we go on, even more bizarrely, this is really bizarre, Steph. J.J. Barry later teamed up with a certain Brian Clough on a truly horrendous number called You Can't Win 'Em All. Which, I mean, and that certainly didn't win anything, but I thoroughly don't recommend that song to anyone. But, I mean, look, you and I are very careful not to dismiss stuff out of hand. It must have had certain charm and resonance to get to the top of the charts. And I think this is old-fashioned. I think this basically goes back to what Fernando was about. It's storytelling. It's a story.
And as you, I think, alluded to earlier, this was the time of the novelty single.
It's like Save Your Kisses for Me, tie yellow ribbon around the old oak tree. There's sort of like that kind. But again, there's stories. Tie yellow ribbon around the old oak tree is a story. And what this is a story, Steph. And since kids, we love stories.
The thing I like the most about this song is that vocal in the background. I didn't realise that was her, so that just makes me like it all the more, because I know that she was a honest-to-goodness working session singer. And I first came across her actually in an album that I've always loved, and I'm probably one. I don't know if you've even heard of it, but it was an album that came out in 1982 by the Deep Purple organist John Lord, called Before I Forget, and she was one of the main singers on that, as was indeed Sam Brown. I think she took a lead vocal on one of the songs. But I'm sure we could find a number of things that, if we just did a quick wiki search, a number of things that Vicky Brown's been on. But no, my only issue with No Charge is that I would have charged more than $5 for mowing the lawn, and probably for going to the shops as well, more than 75 cents. I mean,
no, absolutely. But I actually thought $5 in 1976 was a damn fine price actually for mowing the lawn. I'd have been well chuffed if I'd have got £5 for mowing my dad's lawn in 1976. I'd have been By the way, Dad, happy birthday on Friday. You're 90. Mr. Eastley is 90 on Friday. So, but yeah, no charge. Can I just finish that step? I mean, since I've been researching this, there was a fairly awful segment on Top of the Pops where he's sitting on a kind of raised bar stool with wing collars like the size of Iceland. Crooning into a mic, which doesn't actually improve the experience, particularly of listening to No Charge. But it got to number one, and I've always said in my collection of number ones, which I'm surrounded by, I make no real judgments. So they've earned their place in the panoply of number ones, hitdom, if you like, and there it is.
All right, well, let's continue on that trajectory then, and have a quick listen to Combine Harvester.
I drove my tractor through your haystack last night. I threw me pitchfork at your dog to keep quiet. Now something's telling me that you avoiding me. Come on now, darling, you got something I need. 'Cause I got a brand new combine harvester and I'll give you the key. Come on now, let's get together in perfect harmony. I got 20 acres and you've got 43. Now I got a brand new combine harvester and I'll give you the key. She made I laugh.
All right, I'm just going to fade that out then, Matt. So, Combine Harvester, obviously a reworking of. Just remind me the name. Is it the
Melanie Safka, who basically, if you look at the credits on their Combine Harvester brand new key brackets Safka, Melanie Safka. Now, of course, you've got to make the link here. We've gone from country and western with JJ Barry to scrumpy and western. That's not just me. That's just not me coming up with that's not just me coming up with a cheap gag. That's what it was branded at the time. It was actually a comedy genre invented to describe the Wurzels' music, and I don't think it can be beaten, really. And who doesn't remember this song boasting about farm acreage and agricultural machinery performed by yokels wearing dungarees and clutching pitchforks? I mean, I've tried to forget it, but I haven't been able to. But no, funny enough, I was in Tunbridge Wells yesterday, Steph, and there's a great vinyl shop called Sugarbush Records, and staring.
Correct you there before we get too many complaints. It's Royal Tunbridge Wells to you.
Royal Tunbridge Wells, yeah, absolutely, Steph, you're absolutely right. The famous spa town. But anyway, staring at me from the window of Sugarbush Records was a Wurzels album, and I kind of thought, fair play to you, mate, because it's like it's very, very much vinyl. But
it's probably been there since 1976 as well.
Probably. But of course, the Wurzels. I say the course of Wurzels. I always assume people's knowledge. They go back to 1966, and really, they were about a guy called Edge Cutler. There's a nice West Country name, and they had a hit with Drink Up Thy Cider, classic knockabout drinking song. They had a bit of a cult following, but unfortunately, Cutler died in May 74 after falling asleep at the wheel of his MG sports car, after which Pete Budd took over. And Pete Budd is the guy that's kind of fronted the Wurzels, the banjo playing, red neckerchief, quite sort of ruddy chick. But as we say, Steph, goes back to Melanie Safka, and Melanie actually knocked this one off in about 20 minutes. And Melanie used to sing this one as a kind of throwaway song between sort of more serious songs. And of course, it was brand new pair of roller skates, you got a brand new key. But it wasn't the Wurzels that did the first version. That was an Irish singer and comedian called Brendan Grace, who actually had the first version of Combine Harvest. He had a big number one in Ireland in 75. So it wasn't even the Wurzels' idea to parody it. But I mean, people loved it, and it was ripe for parody. It was ripe for a laugh. You can imagine. I can remember at school, ripe for Top of the Pops. And I remember being at school in the summer of 76, and we all would be singing it on the playground, and it was just gave us a laugh, and it was knockabout fun. Anyway, that's my contribution to Combine Harvester. Steph, you got any observations from a musical perspective? It's got a bit of banjo in there, isn't it?
No, sorry, Matt, I've got nothing.
No, absolutely no. Fair enough. Well, nearly 50 years on, we find ourselves now. But also, I've got to say. The Wurzels, they're still going, I understand. They did a version of the Oasis "Don't Look Back in Anger," which is again, I mean, if you listen to it in the spirit it's intended, it's just about listenable. But it's not. It's almost as bad as it sounds. Wurzel's doing it. I don't look back in anger.
I'd be interested to hear Liam Gallagher's opinion of it anyway. But
well, I'd like to hear William Gallagher singing Combine Harvester. That might be more interesting. But anyway, yeah. So it was number one for 3 weeks, I believe. Yeah, 3 weeks, 12th of June to 26th of June, right in the blazing hot summer of '76. Maybe the kind of the mental imagery of farming and farming machinery resonated with the British public who were kind of blazing in the hot sun. I don't know. It's just a theory.
All right. Well, here's the song that was number one just as school finished, and we all embarked on our holidays.
That's Gamble and Huff. That's the Philly sound. Yeah, it's Philly sound, Steph. It's Philly sound. Obviously with a Liverpool edge to it. That is nice bass playing, actually. Your poppy kind of.
If it takes my heart and soul, you know I'd pay the price. Everything that I possess, I'd gladly
That sort of classic sort of disco drumming, almost. Is that 16 feet?
Well, I love that. I like the one that came after it. Can't get by with it.
I can get by without you.
Yeah, but anyway, no, I loved that. I liked it then. I like it now.
Yeah.
And as you say, it does evoke. It does a pretty good job actually of evoking that. As you say, the Philly sound.
Well, the Philly sound was really the sound of kind of 72, 73, 74. It was Gamble and Huff were the two kind of the two main songwriters. It's most evident on songs like When Will I See You Again by the 3 Degrees. That was number one in '74, and The Love I Lost, particularly by Harold Melville and the. Harold Melville and the Blue Notes, and that opening is just very much Philly. It's kind of a bobbing bass, a light keyboard riff, a bit of strings, and this was actually written by Ken Gold and Mickey Dunn, and just a bit of history of the real thing. Their name, perhaps unsurprisingly, and when I hold up the record there, it was on Pie, the pink Pie label, came from the Coca-Cola ads, the real thing, and that's how they got their. And then another band that came through Opportunity Knocks, the much maligned Opportunity Knocks, and they also, the real thing, backed David Essex for a while. Chris Amu was the kind of the main man. Yeah, they did. Chris Amu was the main man for the real thing, and he kind of can still see him on Top of the Pops, red lame suit, big cap, scarf. Slightly reminiscent of a Huggy Bear for those people who used to watch Starsky and Hutch in the mid-70s. And here's a thing, Steph. Here's a thing. You know, we'll have a little sauce. Chris Amu became a top, not just a top dog breeder, but he was a competition judge. And I believe he won Best in Class at Crufts with a Afghan hound called Viscount Grant. I believe it was late 80s that he won Best in Show in '87. Now, if you can make the leap from him singing that on Top of the Pops to little more than a decade later winning Best in Class at Crufts, you're a better man than I am, Steph. Well, you are a better man than I, but you know, it's not the most obvious post-career existence for a man who topped the charts.
All right, here we go.
Here's another character.
Shines on me like the morning sun.
fact, it takes me back to the point I was making earlier about mowing the lawn. I was mowing the lawn recently, and to just alleviate the tedium of it, I was listening to a podcast which enlightened me to the fact that Demis Roussos was actually quite a decent musician. I always had him pegged as a well-nourished Greek crooner, but the fact is that he was, of course, the bass player and I think probably the singer with Aphrodite's Child. That
Very much the singer.
A prog, one of the earliest prog groups to emerge in the late 60s and early 70s, and I think their most famous album was called 666.
Rain and Tears was their big hit.
So I have to say I underestimated Demis Roussos, and I don't know whether he felt unfulfilled to once he transitioned into this particular. It wasn't only this single, it was an EP, wasn't it, Matt, the Roussos phenomenon?
Yeah, it was the Rufus phenomenon. Interestingly, I mean, going back to the Slick song we started, Forever and Ever was also the second number one of this year, Slick. So we've got another one called Forever and Ever. You're right about Demis Roussos. His dad George was a very accomplished classical guitarist, and Demis actually born in Alexandria, Egypt, not Greece, but his family was Greek. And as a child, Demis studied classical music, and he joined the Greek Church Byzantine choir. And he developed this unique operatic style, and it's almost kind of like a sobbing, kind of pleading vocal. Now, you can't talk about Demis Roussos without talking about his image. This rather hirsute, overweight gentleman wearing a caftan, which certainly added to the allure. At the time, and I'd forgotten about this, it was actually a BBC documentary in '76 called the Roussos Phenomenon, which undoubtedly helped propel the song. And he talked about wearing his caftan and how he kind of felt free and liberated by the caftans, and but he was something of I'm afraid he was something of a joke at the time. I don't mean to be nasty about that, but it was kind of like he was no, that's unfair. He wasn't a joke. He was a figure of fun, I think, and that was because I think now one caveat, Steph, he was a passenger on a plane that was hijacked at Beirut Airport in 1985. A very, very hairy moment for a hairy man, I guess. But he survived, and always struggled with his weight, Steph. But a good song, and it's a moment in time, isn't it? I think, maybe you have to be our age to just, it was part of our childhood, part of that summer. But going back to your original statement, very, very good musician.